Today we have Marshe Rockett. Welcome to the Turnbuckle Sessions. How you doing, man?
I am doing absolutely wonderful right now.
Good. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So let's start back in the beginning. When did you first fall in love with wrestling? What are your earliest memories?
My earliest memories actually I like to call myself like a late bloomer. I feel like a lot of guys in the business will sit up there and say like they fell in love with wrestling when they were like 3 or barely out there, their mama's womb or something like that. I fell in love with wrestling when I was like 10. And I of course that was of course the times around where it was like the Monday Night Wars, which I really, really love. Always flipping back between channels and everything like that, and seeing what was happening in WCW, and then going back to the time WWF and now WWE. So, but it was really, really cool. I loved, absolutely loved. I'm a huge Stone Cold Steve Austin fan. So he was the one that was like kind of pulling me towards like the WWE side. I was like, I got to see what my boy Steve is doing.
Yeah.
So no, but that was those are my earliest memories, and then of course it extended to like the backyard, backyard wrestling, getting a group of my friends together and just like emulating our favorite stars. Of course, me trying to be Stone Cold in the backyard and stuff like that. So. Uh, but as far as like trying to uh thinking about being a wrestler myself, like it just wasn't in the cards yet. I hadn't hit that milestone until like later on, like even after high school, and that only came about just because of my dad. Um,
Oh,
yeah, because my dad was the one who actually like planted the seed. He's always been a huge, huge supporter in me wrestling. Um, Now that I think about it, even now, I was just like, wow, my dad was like always the one that was like always giving me like the niche to like go and say, hey, why don't you try this? Um, but at the time, like, here it is, like my senior year in high school. Uh, I'm sitting up there and I've already figured out where I want to go to like college and stuff like that. But uh, my dad growing up would always ask me and my siblings, he was like, hey, he's always wanted us to plan for our future and have a sense of direction of where we wanted to go. And me, I was always the type that says, I want to do something as show business. I want to be an entertainer. I want to be either an actor, director, and stuff like this. I was throwing all these labels at him.
hmm.
And, he sat up there and he saw something in me that at the time I didn't even see. He was like, he talked to me. He was like, hey, I know you keep telling me you want to be an actor and you want to do all these other stuff in entertainment, but to be honest, I see something else different from you. And of course, I give him like the little side eye. I'm like, what are you talking about? Seeing something different from me. He was like, well, you seem to show a little bit more interest in this wrestling thing. Have you ever thought about giving that a try? And of course, I am just like this scrawny little toothpick at the time. you know, I'm thinking like, Dad, those guys would kill me, man. Like it's one thing to be backyard wrestling with your buddies. It's a totally different thing to try to step in the ring with guys that are like, 200 something heavyweight people, to try to be tossing around. And he was just like, well, I just thought I'd throw it out there. And it's funny because they always say like the universe has a plan for you, and um, and so after he made that statement, I swear there was like every waking moment, it was just like in the back of my mind, like, this sense of urge to like kind of, want to pursue it. Like, at the very least, go out, try to find like somebody with experience and, have them talk to you. And then, maybe it'd be something I would catch on to, maybe it would, but I've always also been that person, like I never ever want to have that question of what if answer, like, well, what if I would have did this, and like, live with that type of regret. So once I did the research and found the the school I was looking for was Windy City because ironically that was not too far from Columbia College is where I was attending. I of course asked my dad like, "Hey, I called this promoter. He says I can come down to the school, and if it's all right with you, like let's go talk to him. Let's go see what he has to say and everything like that." And my dad, of course, was like real cool about it, and he was like, "Yeah." Uh, so we drove down together and like we set up the meeting. We introduced ourselves. He introduced himself, and like we got to see the training, like the studio facility, and he gave us the lowdown. And uh, the funny thing is that like my dad is the only one listening at this time, and I'm just like a kid in a candy store, just looking around like, oh my God, like I see the ring, I see the lights. I've just like fallen on in love all over again. I'm just like, oh my gosh, you know. And I'm already in my head thinking like, "Oh, where do I sign? Oh, give me the paper now. Not thinking about the money, of course, because you got to pay to go to the
Yeah.
school. So I'm just thinking like, oh yeah, let's sign up. And that was of course when my dad had to bring out the reality. Wait. What's the price of admission, so to speak? And so once we had saw like all of that, I was just like, okay, definitely gotta definitely gotta get out here, get a job so I can, start paying off this thing if we go this route. But yeah, from that night, from that point on, like he made me cut the deal where wasn't going to drop out of school and to focus on the studies. And he was like, it's going to be tough, but if you're really dedicated to it, and if this is something that you really want to do, uh, you know, just make sure that you bust your ass and you just be safe out there. And like, as they say, the rest is history. But yeah, I'm eternally grateful that he actually pushed me to push myself to go and do something. Because I mean, look at me now. So
Yeah, man, that's great to have a parent behind you like that and actually push you to fulfill your dreams like
yeah.
that. That's an amazing story. So you went to the school, and how soon after that were you wrestling?
So I want to say about within 6 months because I went to practice like every day. Like I was as soon as I was done with my classes, I sat up there and took care of like everything else I needed to just prioritize and took care of all of my other business. And I was at class like every day, like training like 2 or 3 hours a day, just trying to fine tune every possible aspect because um they always say like people learn differently and like at certain rates. But I was just like, man, if I'm gonna do this, like I'm gonna try to get in as fast as I can. And so, there was sometimes it was just me in the class, like, but I was just like, hey, I gotta get it. So, um, with some hustling, yeah, I think I was trained within like 6 months. And then not too long soon after, I had my first match was for the Windy City uh, lightweight lightweight championship against Justin at the time Justin Adams. Unfortunately, like his opponent that he was scheduled to face that day had got hurt, and so my coaches and trainers, talks amongst themselves, and they were just like, well, who could we add in as a replacement? And, me being there and them all having the opportunity to see me uh, during training and practice, they were just like, well, let's give Marshe a shot and let's see what he can do. And so I just remember at the time, like, walking out in uh, some Under Armour cutoff shirt and some blue workout Adidas striped pants, calling myself Blaze. Oh my God, it was that was just because at the time, I also thought like every person needs a character to be a wrestler. So they're like, "What do you want to call yourself?" I said, "I'll go with Blaze." So, but the crowd loved it. So I don't,
That's
I
awesome.
don't ask me if the crowd ever picked up that, hey, this guy has no flame, so why is he calling himself Blaze? But they were chanting, so I was just like, hey, I'm doing something right because, you know, as long as they're not saying this guy's terrible, then I'm good. But
Oh, that's awesome. So you didn't know that was going to be your match that day? Did you find out the day of?
I found literally the day of. Like
So
I was helping set up stuff and helping get the show together, and uh, they came over there and they called me over there, and I'm thinking I did something wrong. I was like in trouble. I was like, oh crap, what did I do? Did I forget to unload something or like put something in the wrong area? And they say, hey, you know, me and the other vets were talking, and uh, you know, Justin Adams' opponent can't make it, and we want to put you in the position to face him for the lightweight championship. Are you is that you think you're up for it? And obviously I'm not gonna tell him no, but in the back of my mind, I'm like scared, like just kind of like whoa, like okay, so this is go time, like for real, like in front of like the live crowd, they were just like, yeah, this is what you've been traded for, right? And I said, oh yeah, 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 absolutely. And you're just like, okay, well, if you don't think you're ready, just say like, no, 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 I want to do it, because at some point it's gonna happen. I want it to happen, so why not now? But
and honestly, that sounds like a perfect scenario because you don't have like days and weeks to think being nervous about it. Like
right, right.
you find out in the afternoon and that night is your match. That's kind of great. And
Yeah. And I was actually, and I was so appreciative of them even being concerned with, how I would feel about it. Like making sure that I was okay to do it and not trying to like push me into something that maybe I wasn't ready for. But, uh, talking to them, they were just like, we think you're ready, but we want to make sure that if to know that if you're ready. And so that I think that even added a boost of confidence because I was just like, okay, if they're willing to put me in here on the live show, then I got to be doing something right, and I want to make sure that all of the time they taken to help train me wasn't wasted. So uh, just I wanted to sort of give back to say, hey, like it wasn't pointless. It wasn't worthless. All those nights that you guys were working too, and you would come in here, and I'd be begging to stay. Like, hey, can we stay another hour? Can we do this and do that? And you guys are just like they got their own families they got to get home to, but they took the time to help train me. So I wanted to make sure that it was like it was worth it for both parties. And I didn't win the match, but when I came back, they nothing but nothing but respect from them and like love being thrown my way. So I was very very proud of that.
that's awesome. So here's my next question. And you do all the prep, you're putting in the hours. How different is it when you actually get in the ring in front of fans?
Uh it's quite the little transition. I mean, because when you're putting in the hours and the time, all you can do in that moment is just imagine what it would be like to be in front of the fans. So you gotta play it out in your head. Sometimes it's you know, we all think that it's going to be like standing lights and the ovations and stuff like that, but when you're actually in front of a crowd, it's so like organic, and it's so it's a sea of chaos. You don't know what the fans are going to do. You don't know how they're going to react, what they're thinking. um so it's one that I absolutely, it's one thrill seeking I absolutely love, because I love, having that reaction from the fans, like just that little bit of chaos. Like it's nerve wracking before, but once you come out of the curtain and you see like, all the fans and they're just there to have a great time. I mean, it's just it's amazing. It's amazing thrill ride. Can do it all
Yeah.
day.
That's awesome. So my next question, then, when you actually become a wrestler and you put in all the work, do you go back and watch stuff you watched as a kid that you love? Do you look at it differently? Do you see things differently? Do you find a greater
Uh,
respect?
yeah, absolutely. I would say that, like, because now, before it was more or less like I was like, because I was just a fan, I saw it as a fan, but then once I joined and I saw the I actually experienced all through the training. um, yeah, my respect level just skyrocketed, like, because I was just like, wow, this is what these guys had to do in order to build themselves up and to get themselves um, in the position that they did. And, you know, uh, even listening to them now and still talking to them, like, it's a lot of sacrifice. Like, what people saw on TV, they just saw like the superstardom and they just thought, oh, so and so just came through the curtain and everybody loves them and everything like that. But you know, just seeing like how much work is involved and how much you really have to sacrifice time wise, and like missing out on major events like birthday parties, weddings, all these gatherings and stuff like that. It really put like a lot of stuff in perspective, because I was always told, like, the life of a wrestler is it's pretty difficult. And even now when fans sit up there and ask and say like, well, is it fun being a wrestler? I was like, oh yeah, it's great, it's amazing. I don't get me wrong, I wouldn't change anything about it. But when people also ask like, well, how, do you think I can go and uh, be a wrestler? I never want to discourage anybody by all means, but I do, put that little disclaimer up for them. I'm like, this is a hard life, man. Like, if you can't, if you don't want to be away from family for too long, or if you find it difficult to like, you know, prioritize and like, have to sacrifice A, B, and C in order to get where you want to be, then this isn't the life that you're gonna wanna have, because you're gonna be miserable. You know what I mean? Like, really, really miserable. And I've actually seen a lot of guys who had potential, but they just couldn't separate not, going out and being with friends and hanging out with family. And I said, like, better to, it's better to get out now and realize that earlier on than, uh, down the line, and you're just miserable, and you just hate life, and that's never good, man. So
No, that's really not. So let's talk a little bit about the Soul Touches. How did that form? How did that come about on the Indies?
at the time, Willie the Bomb Richardson and C Red, they were uh linking up, and a promotion at the time now was Elite Pro Wrestling. And Willie wanted to tag there, wanted to form a tag team. And he was like, "Well, I want to use a new partner," because at the time he was partnering up with Trauma, and there was like a few other from like Willie's past that he was considering, but they wanted a new take and everything. And so both him and C Red had asked me and invited me along, and they said, "Well, Marshe's young, like, let's give him a try, because that'll be something new. He's fresh face on the scene." So we get over to Elite Pro, and we started off as bad guys, but the crowd loved us too much, so I think we started to instantly turn. But the ironic thing was that Acid Jazz was actually, you know, uh, one of their big, one of the big good guys over there, and he was always doing singles. So it wasn't until C Red had, I think he was like going on vacation or something, or he was gonna be out of town, and we had an event. And so um Jazz had to step in and be, C-Red for the day. And, I think we sat up there and we shot this video that was just so entertaining of like Jazz and coming out and a black suit with a black fedora, and he's saying like, yeah, I'm gonna come out, I'm gonna manage you guys, and me and Willie just looking so like disgusted and coming up. We even propped up this whole contract and everything, saying like, nah, you can't join the Soul Touchers. Like that's not happening. He's like, I can touch souls. Everybody was like, everybody in the back shooting while we were shooting this was just dying laughing, or just like, we have to get you guys together. And so I was just like, of course we were just like, oh, you know, uh, that could be kind of cool, but we didn't think they were gonna actually like run with it. But I mean, any time that we were together, uh, just the chemistry that we all had and like the timings, what we would say, what we would do, um, just carried it just carried over to the ring, and like the audience just continued to grow and just to love it even more. And of course, no better time than to have the Soul Touches coming out and dancing to Soldier Boy, because at the time that the what is it Crank the Superman was like the hottest soundtrack out. And so us coming out there and doing our dance as our entrance, like that was like, it was like watching halftime for a wrestling show. you know you get everybody, like a sea of people just like dancing out in the crowd, and like some of them didn't have any rhythm, but we forgave that. So uh, but yeah. And then it wasn't until, I mean, we had our things in Chicago, but honestly I think after a showing in IWA Mid South, uh and at the time Mike Quackenbush, when was in the area, he attended a show that we were all on, and he witnessed our entrance, and just off our interest alone, like, he fell in love with it. And I think as soon as we were like all done, and with our match, and we're changed, and we're just watching the rest of the show, he immediately came up and he says, "Hey, listen, guys, I'm so and so, and I'm a promoter for Chikara. I would love to have you guys come out to King of Trios back in 2008, um, for, to wrestle in our King of Trios tournament." And so, of course, we all agreed. We were just like, "Oh yeah, man, this is for sure. Like, this is a huge opportunity." And I think from that event alone, um, obviously, like, I mean, we won our first match, but we couldn't capitalize on the second. But honestly, yeah, first from that event, man, I think that really put the Soul Touches on the map, because it showed like, well, who are these guys from Chicago? And they just like, they uh really set up there, and everybody just took notice, and really saw like what we brought to the table. Willie being the seasoned veteran, the old gunslinger, me being the young buck, and Acid Jazz being like the workhorse, and C Red with his charismatic and just managerial capabilities, and just all of us mashing so well together. You couldn't help but to sit up there and fall in love with us. You couldn't hate us, because even though we've tried numerous times, it was like, no one could ever hate the Soul Touches. I think we came out several times. I think Acid Jazz made the joke the one time. He's like, "Man, are we gonna have to like kick a baby or something like that to get people to like really be mad at us?" And I was like, I don't think anybody is ever can really like hate on us, because I mean, when we're out there, even though we're like wrestling all the fans can tell, like, when you're being real. And
Yeah.
they'll, watching our matches, if you check tape, you can see us just all chuckling and laughing as we're in there. It's just having a grand old time. Like, if something goes awry or if there's chaos and everything, and um, we'll all laugh about it. I still remember. He's gonna kill me for telling this, but I'll never forget when we again we wrestled for AIW. They had a jack of trios where at this point, if you won the tournament, you earned a spot to get into the King of Trios tournament. And we were like, okay. I do remember the building that they were at had a narrow stage with a narrow stage, and they had like this sleek downslatted ramp they were using for entrance. And when I peeked out through the curtain, I said, "Hey guys, it's that stage is kind of small. I don't think we can do the dance on the stage." And see, Red thought we were being lazy. He's like, "Oh, you don't want to do the dance?" I'm like, "No, I didn't say I didn't want to do the dance. I said I don't think we can on the stage because it's so small. We're big guys. There's no way we can all fit on there." So he's just like, "Oh, yeah, you're just being lazy. Come on, we gotta do it." And I'm just like, "I don't think you understand." Like, so this is what I'm literally telling them, and I even sent them. I was like, go check out the stage, and you tell me. They go out there, and he peeks and he says, "It's fine, it's fine." And Jazz comes back and says, "Man, I said, see, I told you." But so I we had it in our heads that we were like, "Yeah, we'll dance, but we're gonna have to do it when we're down the ramp." And Mr. GQ, always looking fresh and dressed, uh, see, Red had forgotten that he had on some very nice, well red dress shoes. However, they don't have the best grip. And you can kind of see where I'm going with this. Uh, so here it is. We come up with the order of how we're going to come down. See, Red, of course, is leading the charge. And we get out to the stage, music is happening, and the audience is, yeah, the Soul Touchers, and it's the thrill seeking, the thrill ride, and in the back of my mind, I'm just thinking like this is not gonna end well. See, Red goes out first, and he started to dance, and I said, you need to wait, but it's one of those things where you don't listen and you pay the price. Yeah. So I'm still laughing. But yeah, so C Red takes this huge spill, and I'm just immediately I see him and I look over at Jazz, and Jazz is like, he starts to giggle and he's like, "What happened?" And I just look over, I'm just like, "Well, we were both right." That stage was too small. And I just see C Red looking up at the lights, and he's just like, "I can't believe that happened." And he whispers to me, and he's like, "Was it as bad as I thought it was?" And I was like, "Honestly, no, because everybody else just seems to be having a great time with it." So, but I mean, that's one of the beauty things of again, just going back to chemistry and us all of us just genuinely having fun. People just you can't whether it's a miscue or if it was planned or unplanned or whatever the case may be, like you can't help but to love what the Soul Touchers bring to the table. So that will forever be like one of the best times of my career was being with those guys, and like all the travels that we did and got to the fans we got to wrestle for and the promotions we got to be granted to showcase our talents and stuff like that. Like uh, it was that was truly truly something special, and like even now, it's still uh, people still bring up, and it's like almost like a part of like Chicago history now because anything that has to deal with wrestling wise, you can't help but to think of like the Soul Touchers as a mainstay tag team in Chicago. Uh, and it's cool to see fans still appreciate what we brought to the table and what we did just as a group. It's pretty awesome. So to say the least.
What's awesome about it is too, it's I love you guys got over organically. And to me, that's so
Hmm.
important in wrestling, getting over organically instead of being forced. And that's when you get the true connections like you guys had with the fans. They
Hmm.
wouldn't boo you no matter what you did. That's just a great story. And that just shows, what organic chemistry does in wrestling,
Yeah.
which is lacking in a lot of it today, I feel. But so
I
then
yeah.
storylines like to be forced on you by certain promotions and but at least we're out of the whole COVID era. Now you're signed with NWA. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Let's talk about NWA. You just wound up there. You're probably the promotion with the greatest wrestling history in the world. Like when you look
Hmm.
back at who's held that belt and what that promotion has meant to wrestling, man, it's got to be exciting to be in the NWA.
Oh, it's very exciting. Honestly, when I heard that, because originally Billy Gunn was partnered up with Impact Wrestling, and the funny thing is that like um Billy was the one then too to help get me to Impact Wrestling. And you know, uh, once Billy Corgan had left with Impact, I of course stayed around for a bit. But then once opportunities seemed to not match up over there, it was almost like kind of spinning wheels because it was just like kind of like where am I going to go now? What am I going to do? Like, that type of scenario because I didn't want to go backwards. I wanted to keep using this momentum to keep pushing forwards and stuff like that. And then it wasn't too long before, news had broke that he had purchased the NWA. And so, um, of course I got on the horn to congratulate him and, you know, uh, for becoming president because I knew Corgan has one of the best minds and is just so creatively gifted. Uh, I give all the credit in the world to Billy because Billy takes something and you know he can make something that wasn't meant to be so great and just make it incredible. And before you know it, you're just like, wow, this started off like not what I thought it was going to be, and I love it. I can't like live without it. And I think he's done an amazing job with doing that with the NWA because a lot of when you heard those three letters, like yeah, it was the tradition and everything like that. But I think a lot of everybody was now focused on what pro wrestling has already become with like the mainstream, let's say. Um, with of course the WWE and like everybody wanted to like to see like, the cable and like the dish and everything like that. So uh the new ways was already set, but like Billy has done an amazing job of bringing that old school feel to like the new era of wrestling. And I think a lot of fans are so appreciative of it because it's honoring both past and future. And I think that's something that needs to be majorly explored and like really, brought to light in wrestling because I feel that it's lacking quite a bit, you know, like you said, organically. You don't want to force feed anybody, have something shoved down your throat repeatedly and say, you're gonna like this, you know. So like nobody, that's why a lot of the guys, a lot of superstars now probably aren't as popular, uh, weren't as popular as they could have been earlier on because, they were just being forced down everybody's throat, like, forced to love them. And it's just like, if you just let it happen organically, it's going to be great for all parties, involved. And the fans are going to appreciate it even more. And with the NWA, like that's, everything's so organic over there. It's wrestlers being themselves. It's not, having to read the script and, just uh, walk out there and just be like mindless robots. I mean, if you don't, like, the fans get to say like, "Hey, I don't like you." Well, yeah, that's your God-given right.
Yeah.
Tell me you don't like me, or tell me why you love me, or just voice your opinion, and I'll voice mine, and it just will come together. And however it ends up that way. But I just honoring the tradition, like like you said, like the oldest of time of wrestling, and nothing speaks mightier or harder when old veterans to say, like, after the few matches that I had, and I'll get like a message from some of the vets of the past, some of the legends of the past, and say like, I really enjoyed your match. I'm like, wow. Like, that's huge. If I do nothing else, I'm like, whoa, that is fantastic, you know. Um, so, like, yeah, I'm having an absolute blast with NWA, and I'm especially excited because now, uh, NWA is coming back to the chase. Actually, at the end of this month, because we're gonna have, of course, it's like the all women's pay-per-view, um, the August 28th, which is huge and monumental all on its own, because women wrestlers now are being given the proper stage that they should have had a long time ago. But that's a whole totally different, that's a totally another subject. But they're finally getting their just due,
Yeah.
and it's really, that's something really to be celebrated. And and now, like, the NWA has, it's going to also be a part of like NWA, and it's really going to give a lot of like female superstars that same opportunity that they might have not have gotten anywhere else, but they're definitely going to be able to showcase it here for like the NWA, and coming back to the chase, and like, and all that history, and you know uh just a lot, just St. Louis being like the town where you know you know got put on the map by the NWA. It's just awesome, man. I'm extremely excited for it. I hope the fans are excited for it. I know, like, everybody's gonna kill it, knock it out the park. So, and I mean, it's a really great time in wrestling right now. So,
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I feel like wrestling is hitting a boom again. So
yeah,
many different choices to watch. You don't have to be stuck watching the same thing anymore. If you don't like something, you got the NWA. Like you said, to me, it's classic wrestling. The
yeah,
bad guys are built up to be bad guys, and you boo them, and you cheer the heroes, and it's just the way the wrestling's meant to be. I agree
hmm,
exactly with what you said. Wrestlers need to be in touch with their characters. They shouldn't be actors.
yes,
It's kind of like method acting. You're going to connect with the character more if the wrestler believe is if that's who they are. When they're
hmm,
putting themselves into it, that's when you fall in love with it. That's what, wrestling was in the 80s and the Attitude Era. And that's what's coming back today outside of, you get to choose if you want to see that. And I
yeah,
think that speaks volumes of what's happening in the wrestling world right now. It's an exciting time to be a wrestler and a wrestling fan. There's so
hmm.
many options. What are you looking forward to do in the future? Any goals? What do you
Well, I would love to wear the 10 pounds of gold. So that's
yeah.
that's the future right now. But with the whole Forbidden Door now being open and more accessible, and like you pointed out, like, more collaboration amongst even like the major promotions. Uh, like, I think that is that would be like my ultimate goal. Like, I would love to one day wrestle for like the 10 pounds of gold NWA championship, but I also want to venture out. I would love to venture out to, like, if the opportunity strikes, like, New Japan Pro Wrestling, who knows, maybe a return to Impact, I don't know. But there's so much great talent out there, and now that the barriers are starting to be broken down, uh, if anything's gonna happen, the time is to make it happen now. So I'm just doing my best to stay um, healthy, stay pretty much, to stay ready for any opportunity that may. open up or come my way because uh you know if you stay well prepared for a test, there are no surprises, right?
That's
So
right.
I don't know what the future holds, but I do know I'm gonna make sure I'm at my absolute best and that I'm ready for it.
That's awesome, man. I'm so looking forward to see where you go and what you do. The future is bright. Why don't you tell everybody where they can follow you, how they can find you?
Oh yeah, so they can follow me all on my social. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, all and Twitter, all at Marshe Rockett. You can follow me there. I'm always posting upcoming matches, upcoming links. Feel free if you want to see me on NWA Power. Please, please, please subscribe to Fight TV's NWA Power. Again, awesome, just fantastic wrestling. If you like the old school studio wrestling, and you just want to just relive like the history making moments, but with a fresh look and see some new and fresh young talent getting there just due and getting on that stage and showing the world what they've been missing. I implore people to make sure they subscribe and check out NWA Power. And then also again, like if you haven't gotten your tickets yet, make sure you get your tickets for NWA 73, NWA's Empower, and then there's also like NW Power tapings that Monday and Tuesday afterwards. You know, the COVID is starting to like hopefully just dissipate altogether, but if they're still taking their precautions and still like letting people wear masks and social distancing, which is always awesome. But that's going to be great. But just like everything on the horizon for like NWA wrestling in general is just it's going to be great. But yeah, keep your eyes on all day Marshe Rockett because the ride is just getting started and we are going places.
Thank you so much, man. Best of luck. And again, we look forward to following you and seeing you go for that 10 pounds of gold.
Thank you so much, man.
Thank you.